Welcome to episode 26 of the Hunt Backcountry podcast presented by Expo Mountain Gear. This week we have an uncut episode. It's myself, Steve and Lenny, discussing some recent updates. We discuss the Western Hunting Expo and how that show went. We discuss a recent hunting survey that we sent out to the Expo Mountain Gear newsletter list, had hundreds and hundreds of responses. We wanted to learn more about the Expo Mountain Gear customers to make some future product decisions, but really we just wanted to kind of learn a few things. So whether you're into Expo products or not, you're going to hear about what camouflage patterns hunters are using, how many days of the year they hunt. It's an interesting bit of feedback just to kind of see where guys are at in the hunting segment and see how other hunters compare to the way you're hunting. Speaking of new Expo products, we talk a little bit about two new products that are coming out, a specific shed hauler as well as a day pack. There's been some recent updates even since we've recorded this episode on that, so be sure to check out the show notes at exomountaingear.com/26. There you can see some updated pictures of the shed hauler product as well as the day pack photos, which were just released today. So go check that out. Hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, we appreciate your feedback. This week we want to give a shout out to Tyler Nelson, who sent us a great episode idea to discuss some black-tailed deer hunting. We're going to do that on a future episode, thanks to Tyler's feedback. So Tyler, send us your address, we'll send you out some Expo Mountain Gear swag. Listeners, if you have some feedback or questions, please email us at podcast@exomountaingear.com, or if you're enjoying this show, we would love to hear your feedback and get a review at iTunes. Thanks so much for doing that. On to the show. Well, Lenny, Steve, just getting back from the Hunt Expo in Salt Lake City. There's a ton to talk about there in general, but how was the show in terms of crowds and everything? Like, was it a good turnout, you think?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think it's probably 30% more people than last year, especially Sunday. I mean, Sunday
Really?
last year was slow, and today it was literally all the way until 4 o'clock on Sunday. It was busy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, like I said, Thursday started off a little slow, but by Thursday night through Sunday at closing time, there wasn't too many times we got to sit down in the seat and just kind of take a breath. But it was exciting. It was good to have a lot of people in the booth and a lot of people asking questions, and the weekend definitely went by fast.
Yeah. So, I mean, Exo, we get a lot of questions. Are you going to be at this show? Are you going to be at that show? That's the only show that you guys were exhibiting at this year. Is that the reason that that's the one show in Salt Lake, is because it's the best turnout and the best chance to get the widest amount of exposure, you think?
Yeah, I asked around a lot of industry friends, kind of, I've been to quite a few shows over the years, but asked around what was kind of the best one. And Salt Lake Hunt Expo definitely pops up over and over again as far as the crowd that's there and the atmosphere. And frankly, trade shows are great. They take up so much time from, getting the booth ready and all the product and traveling down there and setting up, and then you're there for a whole week, and then tearing down. So it's kind of hard, especially being a small company as we are, to be out of the office because you're missing out on a lot there. So, but it's also great to get down there and so many people came up and you're like, man, I've heard about them. I've always just wanted to put my hands on one of the packs. So, it's a good show to be at for us.
Yeah.
Right. And it definitely seems like it's a really good demographic for us. It seems like the people that go there hunt pretty hard, and since we're not a big company like Tenzing or Everly Stock or Kafaru, we can't do a whole bunch of them. So it's nice just to go to a show where it's super focused hunters only.
Yeah.
And it's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah. It seems like just seeing things on social media and that too. I mean, it draws more than just that local Utah crowd, those guys hunting the front. Like, there is guys coming down from Idaho and coming across from other states just for this show.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah,
guys from Washington, California, Montana. I mean, pretty much every Western state. And I don't know if I talked to anybody from like the Midwest or East, but definitely a lot of Western states.
Yeah, and there's definitely, I think we sold some packs to some people out of California, Montana. I mean, and it was kind of cool because a lot of them said, hey, we specifically came here because we want to see your pack, and, and they walked away with one. So that was kind of fun to see.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of curious, guys who come in the booth who haven't necessarily heard of Exo or at least aren't familiar with the product in any detail, what's their sort of common questions or thoughts or feedback as they're getting to see the pack for the first time?
I think it just really depends on the hunter. One of our first questions that we normally ask someone who walks in is kind of looking at it. We'll kind of ask them what they're currently using, and that'll kind of help us, know where to start. Because obviously, if they're using, pack like ours, like a Cafaro or Mystery Ranch or Kuyu, kind of that same range, then we kind of know where to start talking and kind of show how we're different than those guys. Versus if someone is, maybe using a pack that they bought at Cabela's, we kind of start, a little more simple, I guess. So obviously it's like the full range of the questions or the responses that you get from someone.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say, Steve?
Yeah, I'd agree. Spot on. It's definitely just try to gauge of the person it is, and a lot of times the first question is how much, and you say, oh well, we're $4.99 to $5.75, and some people go, okay, thanks, and walk away.
Right.
It's a lot of money to spend on a pack. It definitely is, and we understand that.
Yeah, for sure. It's probably somewhat difficult to reel some people back in at all at that point. Guys who just aren't as serious about it and don't understand the differences or the quality or the fact that they're made in the U.S. or any of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So besides Expo, was there anything awesome that you guys saw or experienced at the show? You just didn't get a chance to get out, did you?
No, honestly, man, Steve and I were pinned down in the booth, and we had a couple other guys helping us. We had like 4 guys in the booth at a time, and at times that wasn't enough. It was tough to get out of it, honestly.
Yeah, I literally Thursday night after the show closed, I walked down one aisle and went back another. But other than that, we could kind of come in the back corner of the convention center, and I just walked straight to the booth, and it was the booth to the bathroom a couple times, and that was all I got to do. So I did see this one really cool. It's intriguing for me, just this portable, packable raft for 2 guys. I always do a steelhead float trip every year, and I was looking at that thing like, holy crap, that is freaking cool. I'm gonna go call those guys up and get one of those. But other than that, yeah, I just didn't get a chance to get out.
Yeah. So one of the things that kind of caused some buzz for sure on the Expo end of things at this show was you guys kind of had a sneak peek at a new accessory or attachment that's going to be coming out. What can you tell us about that? Yeah,
so Lenny and I, literally since probably day one of starting Expo, kind of knew that we wanted at some point, based off of our frame platform, to build an accessory that was really set up well for shed hunting. Frankly, Lenny and I aren't big shed hunters, but one of our best friends, Jason and Tyler Crockett, Jason Wright, are big shed hunters, and there's kind of a good market for it. And we thought we could do with our frame, we could do some cool accessory that would really complement that. So we designed this basically side pockets, kind of batwing accessory. It's definitely the most efficient way to be able to strap, anything, frankly, to the pack quickly and easily. And then from there, we knew we wanted to add some kind of extra straps that would come with a kit. And I don't know, somewhere along the line, I don't know if it was you or me that came up with the idea of sewing basically like a 6-inch elastic heavy-duty strap in between 2 pieces of webbing, so you could really kind of wrap around the horns and bundle them up. That way, as you're hiking and the horns, they're just going to constantly kind of be shifting and moving. As they loosen up or things shift, that strap is going to keep tension on the horn. So we worked on that for a while and had it ready for the show. And then we also came up with just a hook that kind of clips right in right where our meat shelf or load panel does. And it's a really simple, just long piece of webbing that clips in that has a male-female buckle, so you can take the webbing, loop it down through the brow tines, back up and into the buckle and cinch it up. And that way your horns, they have a kind of a solid bottom to them so they can't sag down on you.
Oh, nice.
And then, the pockets themselves, it's just kind of always keeping with our theme of really simple and functional. We built it so that compression straps are on the inside seam, and then that way the zipper on the outside, we kind of have a zipper that comes up the side and then up over the top, and that way you always have full access to that. So no matter what you've got strapped to the pack, you can get in and out of those pockets easily. Inside, there's a bladder sleeve and a place to hang your bladder. We also put a little strip of Velcro in there for our stash pockets. And then on the outside, there's little lower pockets with elastic on it. They're kind of pleated, so you could put your tripod legs in there or something like that. And then on top of that, we added bungee cord, little bungee cord system. That way you could, if you had to take your jacket off or something like that, you could just stick it into those bungee cords and be good to go.
Yeah. If you guys listeners want to see a picture of that, we do have it on the Hunt Backcountry Instagram page, as well as the Exo Mountain Gear Facebook page. So be sure and go check that out. One thing we did on those pages as well, Instagram and Facebook, was kind of asked for some naming suggestions for this item, because we weren't even sure what it was going to be named yet, right?
Yeah.
And so we had over 250 responses and some pretty clever names. So we're going to probably have some discussions about what the naming is going to be for that. And if one of those entries ends up being selected, we'll go ahead and ship out that product to the guy who had the name idea that was selected. So it was very cool to see those responses come through.
Yeah, it was. They were way more entertaining than I could have ever imagined. They were great, actually.
The best one was this guy Chris Swafford. He's been an Exo customer for a couple of years, and he walks into the booth and he goes, "I know what you're going to call that." And I look at him, kind of smile, and he said, "Boobs." And I was like, "What? Boobs?" It's an acronym: Bomber Outboard Organization Backpack System. I was like, "Oh man, that's freaking brilliant."
That's good.
Yeah, I was kind of digging it.
Yeah, you got a nice pair on both ends. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. So speaking of boobs and sizes, one of the questions that we got quite a bit, do you guys know what the capacity is on that? Have you determined the volume for those, just the pockets themselves?
I think total 1,500. Honestly, I haven't. We just kind of built them. We just took a pouch, we put a bladder in it and a spotting scope, and we'll just make sure you can get both of those in there, and that's kind of the size we built it to. So, what the cubic inch measurement came out to, we weren't too concerned with.
Right.
But we're guessing 750, 800 each side. What do you think, Lenny?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so total somewhere around 1,500.
Yeah, 1,500, 1,600. So,
okay.
Good size for a guy going out shed hunting for the day, of water bladder, spotting scope, some food. Probably you could fit a jet boil in there easily. Headlamp, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, also if you have a little dry bag or something, you could easily overnight with it if you just strap that in between, strap it onto the frame in between the wings. So
for sure. Yeah. Cool. So those are going to be shipping when about?
They're in production pretty much as we speak. We're shooting for about 4 weeks from now. We always hate to put a date on it because things seem to take 2 or 3 times longer than we hope for. But we're pushing hard. We know, elk shed season's right around the corner, and we need to get these done and ready for it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, definitely we'll continue to post that on, Facebook, Instagram, and all those places when those are available for sure. So what other topics or interesting things came out of the show for you guys?
I think, Steve and I, obviously we're every day, neck deep in Exo and, the next year or, issues and, just running a company, a lot of that. And so honestly, for both of us, it was really refreshing to go down and just get that face-to-face contact with people who's been using our packs. And it was really rewarding, honestly, there were so many people that came up to the booth and said, "Man, my buddy had your pack last year. I got to have one." Yeah. And, after all the work you put in, sometimes, you wonder oh man, this is, it's a lot of work running a company. And it was so great to talk to those people and the good experiences they had. So that was fun to see.
Yeah. I completely agree. It's, I don't know. It's cool. It's just to talk to people and have them tell stories of, packing out this load out of Wyoming. And one guy was telling me a story about packing out this giant bear out of Washington. And, it was just really cool to have the customer interaction and talk to these guys and, just be able to swap hunting stories. And, one thing that was really cool was the amount of feedback we've gotten on this podcast. You kind of don't really realize how many people are listening. We're all just sitting here it's 8 o'clock at night and I'm at my house, Lenny at his. Mark, I'm assuming you're probably in your basement with your kids asleep above you.
I am. That's the usual MO of how things go down.
Yeah. So, it was really cool to get the response and consistently. It's definitely, this podcast more than anything is for selfishly, I want to learn. We want to get guests on here to learn from them and to educate us and, everybody listening right now. And it was really cool because that was definitely the feedback that we got was, just thank you. I learned so much from it. It was just, I don't know, awesome to hear that.
Yeah. I know that's the case for me personally as well. It's just like an opportunity to talk to the hunters or the guys in the industry that we get to talk to. I learned so much. And then, most often the questions, that I come up with, for example, those are legitimately things that I want to know about. And so to be able to do that, publicly, and to be able to bring value to other people while we are learning for ourselves, I think is really cool. Lenny, I know that you had a few people apparently come up and think that you, were me, right?
Yeah, it was funny. I think Mark and myself must sound a lot alike because a couple different people came up and were like, "Oh, I love the podcast," and I've only been on it once or twice, and I was kind of like, "Oh yeah, yeah." Then they start going on. I'm like, "Oh wait, no, I'm not Mark," and it's funny to say, "Oh, you sound just kind of like him." So it was so cool though, because some of the first thing that people would say is, "Man, thank you so much for doing that," which was really eye opening. That we're not trying to be celebrities, I guess. I think we're just all on the same page. All of us are just hunters trying to get information and share that information and make ourselves better, which was, really awesome to hear.
Yeah. I'll give it to the listeners. We're not like the most entertaining, hilarious, like exuberant, people out there, but hopefully we can bring some good information. That's certainly the feedback that we continue to receive, is just that it's good, valuable information. And to be honest, what you started with, Steve, we're in this to become better hunters, and that's what we're doing it for personal reasons. And that's really our hope for you guys that are listening, is that you would be more informed, more capable, and things like that. And certainly if you get a laugh, it's probably not because we're funny, but because you're getting a laugh at our expense. So go ahead and get your laughs, but we hope you learn something too, for sure. Let's transition and talk about something else now, which is a survey that we sent out to Expo customers. Had hundreds and hundreds of responses on probably 30-ish questions. And, I think one thing that's really neat is this obviously helps you guys make some informed decisions for Expo. But the reason we want to talk about tonight is it's just interesting to see some of the feedback, to see how other people are hunting, to see what types of gear they're using. And really, I think it's just interesting information. I know that I was surprised by some of the responses, and then somewhere exactly what I thought they'd be. So we're just kind of, I guess, pull this up and go informally down the list and talk about some of these things. Let's see. Let's start off with this one. I was a little bit surprised at how many days of the year do you typically hunt? And we kind of had it ranged from like 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, and 20 plus. The vast majority, 63%, was 20 plus days a year. I would expect that to be, the highest slice of the pie, but I didn't see that being 63% of the guys. Did that surprise you?
Yeah, absolutely. I would have thought majority of guys would have been in that maybe 10 to 20 range,
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really surprising.
Yeah. Because you figure, as much as we talk about these long trips, most guys don't take really long trips, or at least more than one of them a year. So you figure you got your average guy who's maybe taken, some long weekends and adding even several of those together. It's almost tough to hit truly 20 plus days in the field. But that's awesome. If guys are truly getting out that much, that's great.
Yeah.
What do you think that says about, the Expo customers in general? Like, what's your opinion about the product now, knowing that guys are getting out that much?
Lenny?
I'm sitting there trying to think of it. I guess it's exactly what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
That's probably about accurate, probably about how many days Steve and I get out in the field, that and maybe even some more depending on the year. So obviously I think it's the guys who take hunting pretty seriously, and, their gear is important for those 20 days that they're out there. And so I think they're kind of willing to invest in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to kind of say pretty much the same thing as, it's definitely, if I guess it's surprising and it's not, because if somebody's subscribing to our newsletter or has bought a pack from us, obviously they're willing to spend a decent amount of money and do take hunting somewhat serious, versus guys that, that do just hunt 1 or 2 weekends a year. So, yeah.
And I guess that's, it's funny, Steve and I, we just talk about the company and, where we want to go. And I think that's where we want to stay. We don't want to be all things to all people, I guess. So I think that the fact that our average customer right now spends that many days in the field, I think is okay with us. We're probably not going to come out with, several, different bags to try to appeal to the whole variety of hunters out there. Kind of our goal is definitely to stay, really focused on, what, kind of on that lightweight functional hunting backpack, and not get distracted by, where maybe the bigger share of the hunters may be. We just kind of want to be that really small, focused, hunting company.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's certainly a way to grow a company in general is just to offer a product that meets every need, right? For every use case. And so you're basically saying that's not where you're headed. You're not going to have like these different budget lines and these different, every size offering from like 25 and a 35 and just, meet everything, but just stay focused on your core, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we think that you just start getting too scattered and you kind of forget. And frankly, there's just not enough time in the day. I mean, obviously, Steve and I, we hunt a lot, which we, try to use that information to design into the next pack. And also, I mean, that is why we sent out the survey, so we could get feedback and improve on it. And you start getting so big and get so many product lines that they all kind of get watered down, in our opinion, and they all become, not as good as what they could be, versus if you're very focused and say, hey, this is what we do, so we do really well. And, if it doesn't fit you, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're definitely so we're focusing for us. I mean, it's kind of, I want to say our sales pitch, but like when someone walked into the Hunt Expo booth, I take the customer first thing to our suspension, and it begins and ends with the suspension. And we're only ever going to have one suspension. And we are working on our 2,000 cubic inch bag that'll be ready here by summertime. And guys are like, is that going to have its own shoulder harness? And we're like, no, absolutely not. Like, I don't care where you are, whether you're half a mile or 10 miles from the road. I want you to have a frame pack on your back at all times, because there's absolutely no reason to kill something and have to go hike back out to the truck or uncomfortably get a first load of meat out so you could go back to the truck and grab a pack that's more capable. So for us, it's all about that suspension. And then from there, we're just going to, we'll have 3 bags this year and some of our accessories that kind of all complement and work with it, but very much stay focused and driven towards, backcountry hunting.
Yeah. Cool. One of the other questions that I found pretty interesting, just to see how the responses were broke up, is asking about camouflage patterns that guys wear most often. And, we listed selectable options of Optifade from Sitka and Fusion from First Light, and both patterns, Vias and Verde from QU, Cryptic, ASAP Max 1, and then, kind of in the other category. In terms of the biggest slice of the pie, if you pair the QU patterns together, they sort of led the charge at about like 24%. And then the next closest thing to that was actually the other category. I was kind of surprised about both of those fronts, that QU had that big of a market share, which I guess I'm not shocked about. And then I was actually really surprised that out of all of those patterns listed, that other still came in such a high category, and there's that many people wearing something else.
I was curious what other is. I don't, maybe some other Realtree patterns and Mossy Oak patterns that weren't listed, but I guess that would be, I don't know. I'd be curious to find out what those were.
Yeah.
The one Fusion really surprised me at almost 14% from First Light for being a pattern that's only, a year plus old.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big chunk of our customers. I was really surprised at that. It's only a couple percentage points behind Sitka. So
yeah,
which actually, kudos to First Light for that.
Absolutely. And if you separate the two KUIU patterns and don't combine them together, Fusion, being basically a little over a year old, was second only to Optifade from all the Sitka stuff, and actually beat Veus and Verde and Cryptic and ASAT and Max 1 head to head. So that's actually pretty surprising, which I guess leads us maybe to one of the next questions, talking about picking one camouflage pattern for a pack, or just one camouflage pattern in general. If hunters had to pick just one, Fusion actually killed it in that with like 27%. So more than anything else. Yep.
Yeah, Fusion dominated that one. I think what's second was Other.
Yeah.
As I'm looking at it, and then right behind that is the multicam that we're currently using.
Yeah.
So, for us it's tough because we're small enough that we can't, our first year we did a pack in ASAT, and frankly it was our worst seller just because, ASAT's a very specific pattern, and it's, you guys got guys out there wearing KUIU and Sitka and Cryptic and all the other patterns. And they're not going to buy ASAT just because it's, one, we all agree ASAT's a functional pattern, but it's extremely ugly. And two, it would really kind of, to some extent, we probably all have some vanity in that we want to like look good when we're out there. So multicam for us is a very generic pattern. It kind of works well with everything, and it's kind of a natural place for us to be. But it was, we're always looking to improve, and if we have a really high demand for something, it's definitely something we would be looking at, maybe 2-3 years down the road or further than that. But it's good to start getting and gaining information now so we can plan and prepare for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always kind of laugh that, multicam, it's like nobody loves it, nobody hates it. Which, looking at that breakdown in how many camos people are using these days, I mean, it's crazy. It's, you just can't have that many lines. And so it's kind of, meets that in between that we're able to do.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of my biggest takeaways from the ATA show this year, is just how many companies are now releasing their own camo pattern. And so for a manufacturer like you guys who, are trying to match up with apparel, for example, like it's just impossible. I mean, there's, we listed the 8 most popular brands we could think of, and then we're surprised that 23% of the people still said, nope, I'm wearing something else. And that's only going to continue to happen. I mean, there's just no way that you're going to be able to do a dozen plus patterns, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
So the breakdown on whether hunters preferred a solid color or a camouflage pattern for their hunting pack specifically was kind of a 60-40 split, with the majority, that 60% going with camouflage and 40% sticking with a solid color as their preference. What did that surprise you guys at all? And does that kind of match the sales?
Yeah, it perfectly in line with our current sales of where multicam is about 60%, and that other 40 gets divided up between coyote and foliage, where coyote kind of not largely dominates that, but it's the majority of the solid colors sales.
Yeah.
So, but it's tough for us because when we're looking at things, and there's a lot of customers that I think any day of the week I kind of like one color over the other, just for whatever reason. But we do get guys who want the foliage, who just don't want to look like an elk out there during rifle season, and we definitely understand that.
Yeah. So talking again kind of about length of hunts, but this time talking about specifically each trip, how long are guys going out? So are they day hunting? Are they taking trips that last 2 to 5 days, 5 to 10 days, or more than 10 days? This is about what I would expect, but day hunters came in at about 30%. The biggest slice of the pie was trips lasting 2 to 5 days at about 44%. The 5 to 10 day trips was a little over 20%. And then obviously the smallest slice of the pie was those trips that last longer than 10 days. I know that you guys are in the middle of, getting ready to release this day pack and a little bit this year. Did you anticipate that 30% of the responses would be primarily day hunters?
I actually probably would have thought it would have been higher.
Really?
Yeah, I would say based off of, because this was mainly sent out, it was sent out to our newsletter list, which is 95% of existing customers. I kind of expected that because obviously they're buying our pack that's geared towards, that 2 to 5 and 5 to 10 day trips with the 5,500. But yeah, it's still 30%, it seems about, right for me, based off of our customers.
Yeah.
I'm sure if it was sent out to a newsletter list of, generic, I don't say generic, but just a bigger sampling of hunters,
right.
That would be a lot larger number.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that made me think of one question. When you guys do have the day pack ready, is that going to be sold with the frame and that you can buy just the day pack and the frame? Because obviously there's, potentially a good bit of the customer base who wants that meat hauling capabilities of your frame design, but they want specifically the pack to be the day pack size.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have it as a bag only option on the accessories page, like we have the 3,500 and 5,500 bag only options now. And then we'll have it as a price on, just to buy the kit on the, and then there's a little bit of a savings when you buy the two together.
For sure. Cool. So in terms of ideal size for a day pack, the largest response at about 35% was at 3,000 rating, which I was somewhat surprised because you're so close to the 3,500 at that point. And then about 30% of the guys said 2,500, and then 30% said 2,000. Does that factor into the way that this day pack is going to be designed for the final version?
Somewhat, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've kind of had
the
two
beans,
different.
Lenny, in what ways?
We've had kind of two different ideas on kind of how we finished, I guess I'd say, the top end of the pack out on this, and I think that's probably going to kind of drive it towards a little more versatile versus a little cleaner look, maybe is what I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe reading between the lines, something that's more expandable, not necessarily snow collar, but something to give you a little bit more flexibility up top.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So we asked kind of an open-ended question about specifically features for a day pack. Did anything stand out for you guys there?
Literally there's, like I said, hundreds of responses here, and scrolling through them. I mean, it's kind of what I expected of all over the map of some guys. For a day pack, it's all about organization, and they're not so concerned about load hauling capabilities. Other guys, it's all about, high quality frame or ability to compress or ability to carry a weapon. It's really all over the place. And that's kind of the challenge of designing a pack of, you really have two ends of the spectrum, and we got to just, it's, there's probably, I don't know how many thousands of decisions that get made that kind of just start funneling you into a certain direction. And even just, where you put this buckle and that buckle, and do you have a zipper here or not, a pocket here. It's hard to kind of weigh all that and balance it out and appease as many people as possible while still keeping the pack, lightweight, durable, functional. Yeah.
I mean, that exact conundrum, if you will, between keeping things simple and clean and lightweight and then providing features or more robust materials, things of that nature, was exactly what that next question led into. And pretty much 70% of the responses said that features and weight are equal considerations. And then it was, you had a majority, in terms of the remainder, you had about 20% who said, something streamlined and lightweight is more important. And then only 10% really said that features are most important. So clearly guys want the best of both worlds. And I know that having personal discussions with you guys, that's something you just consistently, I don't want to say struggle with like in a bad way, like it's hard to figure out, but it truly is difficult to find the right balance for, the majority of your customers, even though I think you guys clearly have a handle on what people want and or need. There's just so many differences. And so, that 70%. That's the majority, and that's unfortunately, I think, good news, bad news. Like it's bad news because that's the hardest thing to do, is to balance all of the features and still keep things streamlined and lightweight and etc.
Yeah,
I would totally agree. I mean, when Steve and I, when we started this off, frankly, like our goal was sub 4 pounds pack, and as we, obviously we hunt, and so the first couple of prototypes we got in the field, and like, wow, I can't live with that. And so I think the fact that we get out and hunt as much as we do, I mean, that's really where our design ideas and inspiration come from, I think has really driven our design, and I think that's helped us. And so I think people are really starting to catch on to, like, wow, how you use this pack is different than a lot of other packs, but I can see why you guys did it that way. Once they start using it in the field, it's not a designer sitting behind a desk thinking, wow, this would be a great idea, and not really understanding the context that you'd use it. And so that's why kind of where our pack ended up on weight was really, we just decided there's several things as a hunter in the backcountry that we couldn't live without, and it kind of pushed our weight up, higher than what we wanted to originally. But we felt that, like these guys are looking, the feature was worth the weight trade-off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like one of our early prototypes, we had our stretch panel on the front, but no side pockets, not the long tubular side pockets, and then I don't believe we had a side zipper on the first one, but you get out in the field and you start using it, and it's like, it's just so, so cluttered. You got to yard sale your pack just to get something out of the bottom of it, or you got to jam your spotting scope inside the pack. So if you're hiking along, you need to be able to get to it quickly. All of a sudden, you got to unbuckle this, do that, take your jacket out and your spotting scope's underneath that, and it becomes a pain in the butt. So we kind of backed, I said we started, that original prototype, I think was like 3 pounds, 14 ounces or something. And then we just kind of kept having to add a zipper here, a pocket there. And I think in the end, we did a good job balancing it all and keeping it streamlined and very efficient to use. And it's just it's a challenge. It's, I think even something as relatively simple as the side wing, bat wing project we worked on, there's so many ideas. Like most of our prototyping is our sew machine that we use for prototyping is in Lenny's garage, and I'll go over there at 8, 9 o'clock at night and be there till, 1 a.m. And we like something here, I will come up with like what we think is a brilliant idea, and then we sew it up, and you immediately go, oh crap, that doesn't work. Or, like we put some buckle here and then realize, oh, well, now we blocked off access to the zipper. So now, we got to move the buckle over here. And it's just a tough, it's a tough challenge, and it's fun just balancing all that out. And in the end, having the cleanest, most streamlined pack that we can.
Yeah. So in terms of pack attributes, people sort of ranking from most important to least important. Load hauling ability and comfort came in as most important, followed by durability, and then lightweight, and then lastly was feature rich. So we talked a little bit about, the balance between lightweight and features, which in this case were the latter two. But really what's most important, at least to these responses, is load hauling ability and comfort, and then durability. So can you guys speak to that in terms of how that's influenced your design decisions?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but when we started this, we kind of had a list of what was most important in a pack. And actually, I think durability might have been our number one, just because our opinion is you can't have a pack that fails in the field. So I think durability was our number one. I think number two was load hauling. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah. I have to look at that original list, but
yeah.
Load hauling. I mean, it's always starts with that suspension. So durability and load hauling kind of fall hand in hand there.
Right. Yeah, and so we definitely, it's the same, I guess, conversation that obviously these people are trying to think through. So, Steve and I, our pack, it's definitely, we feel like it is by far the most comfortable pack you can wear all day long. When you have your 30, 40 pounds of overnight gear and you just hunt up and down hills all day long, for that 90% of the time that you have it, But then you could still obviously throw on a heavy load and come out heavy. But there's always a trade-off there that we are, balancing, because we could, stiffen up a lot of stuff, and then it would reduce the ability for it to be really comfortable all day, that 90% of the time. It would, but would maybe beef it up if you really loaded 150 pounds on it. So, we're always just trying to walk that line as close as we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to scroll down here quick through these responses since we talked about weight. It was interesting to see the breakdown, because that's certainly one of the questions that we asked on. And it was a very small percentage of people that actually declared that they ever loaded more than 100 pounds in their pack. Which, that is a freaking lot of weight. But it is interesting to see. It was, we asked specifically about the comfort rating of this user's current pack, whether that was EXO or not, with a load weighing more than 100 pounds. And over 30% of the responses stated that they have not and would never carry more than 100 pounds in their pack.
They're the smart ones.
Yeah. Yeah, that probably is smart.
Yeah.
Certainly been on the other end of that equation, and sometimes you do question your sanity, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
So one of the questions, and this opens a can of worms for you guys to speak of for sure, but in asking about those that responded to this survey that currently use EXO packs is kind of the one thing that they would like to see changed. Was that kind of, did you see the things that you expected to see there in terms of the customer feedback that you've gotten thus far? Or was there any specific changes suggested that surprised you?
There's a lot of great ideas. A lot of really good feedback from it, honestly. And I don't know if there's one thing in there that maybe stuck out more.
Yeah. It's definitely kind of over the map. Of just everybody has a different, what their ideal pack is. There's never going to be a perfect pack, frankly, just because there's going to be a perfect pack for an individual person, but that's going to cover a wide range of people. It just doesn't exist. And so there's random stuff of some guys want to have a water bottle holder. And for me, like, I don't understand why you would pack a water bottle into the backcountry, because if it's half full, it's just going to be sloshing around in there and making noise. Like, why would you not just have a bladder in your pack and
Wouldn't
have
the
that weight?
Stretchy pocket at the bottom of the full-length side pockets be perfect for a water bottle?
Yeah, I would think so. But we get asked quite a bit, actually, for a water, like an Nalgene bottle holder. And
Really?
I'm not really sure why. But it's something that maybe we'll look at down the road, because we definitely get that suggestion a lot. So, one thing that Lenny and I were never fully happy with was the lid on our pack. It just never really wants to sit there nice and tight. And that's a suggestion that I see in here probably 10, 15 times. And it's something we're kind of it's just a slight little tweak we're making for 2016. Just kind of make it a little wider and deeper, and then change the buckles on it so they suck up tighter. So that's something we're, definitely we're getting these responses, because Lenny and I, we want our customers' feedback. We want to make our pack better. And that's something that, we see and we're definitely addressing.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, Steve and I came and developed a pack with our ideas that now we kind of feel like it's time it's been out there long enough. And so we kind of feel like the next evolution will be like a lot of feedback from the people who actually use it. And it'll probably, tweak the way that we think. So, there's nothing, it's funny. I had a guy that came up and talked to me at the show and said, hey, I just couldn't, this wouldn't work for me on your pack, and I really wanted to like it. And, it sucks that maybe it didn't specifically work for him, but that's the kind of stuff that we do want to know. We're not so arrogant to think that our pack is the best one in the world and the only one out there. So, we want that feedback from our customers.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I even every email that I get, of suggestions or future product ideas just goes into a folder in my inbox. I have it all saved, and Lenny and I just reviewed it a few months ago. Kind of same lines of the responses we got from the survey of just getting feedback from our customers. And we're always going to listen to them and continue to improve.
Yeah. So if there's listeners who somehow missed the opportunity to fill out the survey, because it did only go out to the Exo Mountain Gear newsletter mailing list, can they go ahead and send you guys some feedback, whether it's something specifically that this conversation and this podcast triggered, or just something that they've been wanting to see in a pack and haven't yet? Where could they send you that feedback?
The best is just the info@exomountaingear.com. That email just goes direct to me. And I said, I'll definitely take a look and respond and save the information for future use.
Cool. And then if you guys do want to join the newsletter, you can go ahead and do that. If you go to exomountaingear.com, you can look for the place to sign up there. It's nice and easy to scroll down a bit on the homepage and you'll see that. So was there anything else out of the survey that you guys wanted to discuss?
It's interesting. We just kind of asked, find out who our customers are and where they're coming from, what pack they used before they used ours, and it's kind of just all over the map. And it's literally a lot of guys at the high end market that kind of changing around, trying out different packs, and there's a lot of guys with the Eberly Stock and Badlands and Tenzings and stuff like that have kind of moved up into an EXO. And it was really, really interesting because it's definitely just all over the map. And as a company, we're always trying to figure out, who is our customer. And it's pretty much just everybody that's interested in a pack that performs well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely see like half our guys are kind of moving up from the packs, then about half the guys, kind of moving that sideways, who are, maybe had a Kuyu or a Kafaru and, aren't satisfied, kind of looking for something new. Seems like it's about half and half who are buying our pack now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a tough pill to swallow to get to that premium pack price point, where you guys are at. And then, some of the other brands who are comparable in quality, you can even get quite a bit higher than where you guys are at. So certainly something like, an Eberly Stock or Tenzing can be attractive based on the price point. But, the one thing that makes me think of from personal experience when I see guys coming up to something like an EXO from that stepped down in quality and features and things of that nature is most of those guys are the guys who tried to get away with not spending a lot and then learned the hard way that they probably should have spent a bit more. I mean, it's not like not like a guy's buying a $250, $300 pack and wearing it and go, oh, that thing's phenomenal. I think I'm going to go spend $500 now. And the guy's going, no, I thought I could have spent $250, $300 and I almost died. I need to reconsider this.
It's that I was talking to somebody at the show too, but it's just a natural progression as well, right? I mean, my very first, Lenny and I were just talking about this on the drive home last night from the show of our very first backpacking trips, and I had just a stupid heavy load packed in. I would use Google Earth and pick the spot on the map that I don't even think at the time I knew how to use the distance tool on Google Earth. I was just like, oh, I could park there and I'll hike over to that basin along the ridge. And, it ended up being like a 7.5 mile hike or something like that with a Cabela's pack frame. And I had like a Blacks Creek day pack strapped to the back of that thing with camp gear just loaded all over it, looked like a freaking truck driving down the road.
Yeah.
And you just it's just a natural progression. You just kind of start moving up. So. Well, Lenny, what was yours? You were just telling your story. You had some like 10-pound freaking sleeping bag or something like that.
Oh yeah, man, mine was. I think I can't even. We were actually laughing. We said we need to have a contest for like first backcountry backpack and send in a picture because I can submit a doozy. Giant pack is like a Walmart sleeping bag, like strapped to the bottom. That was like bigger than probably my pack is today. And it was like in October, and I don't even think I was even using Google Earth then. Kind of says age. and walk in there, it was cold, and literally like woke up in the morning, and we kind of hiked around the corner. We're thinking we're way back there, and we run into this guy and his wife and like a little dog, and they're probably in their 70s. And I'm like, how the heck did you guys get back here? And they're like, oh, there's a road right here. And so we like hiked all the way down this long ridge and didn't realize there's a road at the other end. So it was just kind of the end to a really, a steep learning curve. It was funny though. I was talking to Steve about it, and I was like, man, it was amazing how quickly I progressed. You know, if you get into it and you start doing it, you know, I hate to say it, you start dropping the money to get good stuff.
Yeah. Well, you learn the hard way for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You guys need to go find those pictures because we have to put them up and share them now that you've discussed that. For sure.
I will definitely find it.
I'm sure I can pull. One of the first it wasn't a hunting trip. It was one of the first backpacking trips I did. It was like an overnighter, you know, and I'm wearing blue jeans and I'm sure cotton socks and had like a giant external frame pack with probably a 70s era giant Coleman sleeping bag, packing canned food, you know, the whole deal. It's just like, I think it's a rite of passage, you know?
Yeah. Oh, it has to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to have a couple miserable ones before you kind of start getting it all figured out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, wholly agree.
Well, cool. Thanks for spending the time tonight, guys. It was fun to talk through all of that. We'll be sure to continue, as we mentioned, to keep you listeners up to date when these new Expo products get released. We have the shed hauler coming sooner rather than later, and then, as I mentioned, a little bit later in the year, the day pack coming down and things like that. So definitely stay tuned to the podcast. We'll be sure to mention those, and then also, you know, stay up to date on social media, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, join the newsletter, all that fun stuff. So, Steve, Lenny, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mark.
Well, again, thanks for joining us this week. Be sure to go to exomountaingear.com/26 to see those new Exo products and get the other show notes. As always, appreciate your feedback. Podcast@exomountaingear.com is the email, or leave us a review on iTunes. We will catch you next time.